Thank you so much, and thanks for that great introduction. Hi, everybody. Before we start, if you have not heard of Flipboard but would like to start using Flipboard, or think you might want to go ahead and download it now if you're on a computer at flipboard.com, or find it in your app store on your phone or your iPad or whatever device you're using, so that it's a little easier for you to see as we go through this. So as Diane said, I am a homeschool mom. I've been a homeschooler for 25 years, and I have 4 children. My youngest son is Peyton, and Peyton is 17 years old and on the autism spectrum. He is high functioning. However, he does at times get stressed out and has trouble with some of his schooling. So we came up around Flipboard about a couple years ago now, and Peyton actually also uses Flipboard. So as I said, I've been a homeschooler for 25 years, and I am a mom of 4. Peyton is 17. And also, I was a grassroots networker for many, many years, and I decided to take my skill set of being a grassroots networker and become an activist in the autism community. Then my name is Awesomism Mom, because I tell Peyton he has awesomism, not autism, because he's the one of 68 and the rest of us are the 67. So he's very special. And when he was 4 years old, they told me he would never read, he would never write, and he would never be able to speak. He speaks, he writes, and he reads, and he loves his iPad. So I am a big believer in Flipboard. I had the honor to go out to Flipboard about a few weeks ago, my husband, myself, and Peyton. And we got to meet them, and I explained to the people at Flipboard what an amazing difference they're making in this community, because I have seen Peyton grow so much through this. So you're probably asking yourself right now, what is Flipboard? Well, Flipboard is an amazing social media tool. It is a reader. It is also a social magazine. It is a notebook. It is a journal, and it is so much more. I'm going to show you how to set up a magazine, but before I do that, and before I tell you how Flipboard can be used for homeschooling, especially in the special needs community, I would love to have you watch this short little video about Flipboard. So there you have kind of a quick overview of what Flipboard is. Now we're going to go into more details about what exactly is Flipboard and how it can be used for you. One of the things that I love the most about Flipboard is I can create my own magazines. So can Peyton. It is a way for him to be able to use it on not only for his schooling, but also for, it's a social media where he can share, he can collaborate with other people, such as Peyton is very much into stop motion videos, and he puts his stop motion videos into a magazine, which is great because it allows him to connect with other people who love stop motion videos. And so let's go into, oh, and also it is free. So that's another great part of it. It's not something that you have to subscribe to. You don't have to pay a monthly fee. It is free. And I will tell you, they do monitor Flipboard well. I mean, nothing's perfect, but as far as social media goes, it is monitored well. If you have someone who, you know, harasses you or bullies you or something, you can go ahead and report them, and they are very quick on making sure that that's taken care of, which I find to be a major benefit. So what exactly is Flipboard? That's probably what you're asking yourself. Well, you can create your own magazines. When I was young, I can remember going into the grocery store and stuff and standing in line with my parents, my mom usually, checking out at the grocery store and seeing topics on the front cover of magazines. And it would spur my interest. And I would, you know, try to research them. Back then we didn't have the internet, so I'd look in encyclopedias and stuff. Well, that's what's great about Flipboard. You can use it as a reader and it'll spur your interest, and you can start your own magazine about that particular topic. These are some of my magazines. I use it as well as Peyton. This is my main magazine, Awesome as a Mom. In it, it is a collection of many different articles about autism, what's going on in the world when there's positive and negative, as well as other people's blogs, my own blogs, as well as therapists and different science that they find, different technologies that they find for them. I curated all into this magazine, and it's a great place for me to go back to. Here's another one I have, Awesome Homeschool Information and Tips. And what I put in this one is a lot of different outside the box homeschooling ideas that I come up with that I think are really great for not only Peyton, but for other parents that are interested in finding something outside the box for their child with autism. Another magazine is the ABCs of Awesome Homeschool Learning. This one is a little more geared towards things such as science, technology, and again, outside the box thinking for homeschooling. And here's another one of them, Awesome Ways to Help Moms De-Stress. As we all know, being homeschool moms, especially homeschool moms of children with special needs, or homeschool dads for that matter, our stress level tends to go up. And I've put together a magazine to kind of give you some ideas of different relaxation ideas to help you calm down and just make your days a little easier. This isn't all my magazines, but this is the majority of my magazines. And as you can see, if you look at my magazines, you get a good feel for who I am. I used to love the show Hazel from the 60s. It was my favorite show. It's still my favorite show. And I have a magazine just dedicated to Hazel. I have a magazine dedicated to the fact that I'm Dutch. So I have a bunch of articles and different things about the Dutch culture. I have an article about Chicago because I'm from Chicago. So different magazines can reflect who you are, as well as using them within the homeschooling as far as being a good connection with others too. Okay. The other thing about Flipboard that I find to be extremely helpful is it has professional publishers. such as National Geographic, Time, some of the other magazines are on there. Even Martha Stewart. And there are times that I go into the Martha Stewart magazines to look at some great homeschool crafts for the different holidays. Here's just a sampling of some that are on there. And you can see you can get news, you can get business, you can get photos and design, you can use travel if you like to travel, or you can teach your kids about different parts of the world, style, as well as here's some other ideas for things you can flip. I really like to flip not only my own website with my own blogs in it, but when I find another mom or dad that writes a blog that really, their blogs hit me. And it can be anything from homeschooling to special needs to they may be writing about day-to-day situations in their life that I can really relate to. I can put their blog into my magazines. And what's great about this is I don't have to keep searching for their websites and try to remember, oh, where did I see that again? I've now flipped that website with their blog into my magazine, and I can go to that magazine on that topic and find that again. Right there. It's right there at my fingertips. I can put images and photos in my magazines. When we travel, a lot of times, Peyton will take a lot of pictures, and he sets up a magazine for that particular trip and takes pictures. And what's great about this is he takes his iPad and he's very engaged in the trip. He's seeing it as a learning opportunity because when we get home and he's doing his magazine, I say to him, do you remember why you took that picture, where we were? Can you research some of the things on that picture? You can put your videos in there. You can put videos from YouTube and other sources. Again, this is a great connector. You see a video where someone is explaining something and you think, oh, I got to remember where to go with that. Flip it into your magazine. You go back to that magazine, there it is. And what's great about this too is if you're homeschooling your child, as we all know, our children all have different learning styles. And one thing that I find with Peyton is that sometimes when he reads too much, he gets overloaded. And when he gets overloaded, he's not going to learn. His comprehension goes to nothing because he's an inch away from having a meltdown. Well, that day, if I feel this in the morning or I start seeing this during the day, I can have him learn on his topics through the pictures, through videos, and he doesn't have to read, and his stress level goes down. Maybe you have a child that doesn't read, or their reading capacity, they don't comprehend off of it. It's great. You can put videos in there for them to watch. You can put still pictures in there, and they can learn from this as well. And I find this to be a major benefit to this. You can have sounds. If you have a podcast that you find particularly interesting, or you think your child might find particularly interesting, you can put the podcast in there. Google Docs, slides, all of this can go into your magazine. The sky's the limit with what you can really do. And it's amazing to see just how much can go into this. You can put PDFs, and if you can't get the site in there, you can paste the URL. I love this as far as a curriculum goes. So now I'm going to discuss a little bit more with you how to use Flipboard for homeschooling. We've used it as a virtual travel journal. We travel sometimes, and what is great with this is, as I said, I engage Peyton. He will take notes while we're on the trip. He will take pictures while we're on the trip, and then he puts them into a magazine, and he has a magazine about that trip. So he's studying, like we went down to South Texas. We went to see the battle where they fought the Battle of Goliad. Peyton took pictures, took some of the write-ups that they had there, came home, wrote a blog on it, put a magazine together on it, put his pictures in there, and then did his own research on it as well. So he was able to not only write a blog about it, put his pictures in there, but he added other information that he had both acquired as well as found on the web, and then learned all about the Battle of Goliad. It was such an interactive curriculum. It was wonderful. It's also a calming influence for him. When Peyton was young, we did the magazine therapy. And what I did with him was I would get magazines and we would sit on the couch for hours and flip through magazines. And this is how he learned facial recognition, because I would find all these different magazines that had people sometimes laughing, sometimes sad, sometimes, you know, discussing, intent. And I would show him that person is this, that person is that. And then he would study the face, and then he would learn. I would do the facial expression with him. And then we'd go back through the magazine, say a few days later, and I'd say, which person is happy on this picture? Which person is sad? We did it to increase his vocabulary. I did common items. I did different things like food, day-to-day food type things. So this, he still takes to this. He still goes to his magazines and looks at things, because he'll flip things into his magazines if he hears Mark and I discussing something, and he'll put it into his magazine and he'll go back and look at that when he gets stressed. He's got a magazine about stress. It's also a social magazine. It's great. One of the things that I love about Flipboard as well is it can be public or it can be private. You can make your magazine private, where the only people that are allowed to look at your magazine are those who you invite. Then you just put it'll show a little lock on it, and you can say send it just to your immediate family. Everyone in your immediate family can contribute to that. Or if you're in a homeschool group, you can, in a co-op, in a homeschool group, however you do it, and you can invite other people to join it, and they can all flip into this magazine things that are of interest. Say you're studying, like with Peyton, stop motion videos. You can get 10 different teenagers to all do stop motion videos and put it in there. And they can discuss this among each other, because you can comment in the magazine. So they have a social connection. They may make a friend in Nebraska and they live in Arizona, and all of a sudden they both are homeschool special needs autistic teens, and they both love to do stop motion videos. Well, they can be having this magazine. It's an amazing connector. It's also a subject journal. What I love about this is you can put the subjects into your journal that your children are taking. And one of the things I do with Peyton is I have a magazine just for our homeschool year. And I take snapshots of if he takes a class online, and that will go into his magazine. And so I have that for future. This is the class he passed. Here was his final test. Or if he just takes the class and at the end it says he has successfully completed this class, I put it in there. He puts snapshots of some of his math workbooks. He puts his blogs in there. He puts pictures he's put in there with write-ups on it. And we have an entire journal of what we've done for the school year. That way, it helps me for planning for the next year. It helps me see what all we've accomplished and what we haven't accomplished yet, as well as if the state were to come to me and say, well, we want to make sure that your child is actually learning, I can open this Flipboard magazine and show them everything that we have done. It's great. It's also, you can have your own portfolio in there. And did I mention it's free? Here's Peyton's magazine from our trip to South Texas. That's, if you follow him on there, you can see where he put all his stuff in it. Here's one that he did about the oceans. Peyton he's obsessed with the ocean and sea animals. He's got some of the most amazing articles in here from the Discovery, from National Geographic, from all kinds of things. And he goes back and looks at it all the time. It's a great supplement to his science classes. So, weather. Peyton is completely obsessed with the weather. We call him our in-home weatherman. He'll tell us, yes, it's going to rain. No, it's not. So he likes to look up different things to do with the weather. And sometimes we'll say to him, do you know what this means or that means when we're watching the weather on the news? He'll say no. Well, he'll go research it, put it into his weather magazine, and then he can keep looking at it, and it really expands his knowledge base. Peyton has his own magazine about autism. He took a class on autism, and he flipped some of those things that he learned as well as other articles. And it connects him with other kids and stories that they've lived through. And he'll come to me sometimes and say, Mom, did you know this? Did you know that? And he'll put it into his magazine. And I think it's a good connection for him to realize that sometimes some of the issues he's having, other kids are having too. And it's just a great reader. And here's his stop motion video highlight one. And all his different stop motions are in there, as well as articles about stop motion. How do you use Flipboard? One of the things I get asked all the time is, what is the best way for me as a homeschooling parent with a child with special needs to use Flipboard? I think the best thing about Flipboard, not only can you put your subjects and everything in it, but you can teach your kids life skills and work skills. For example, autistic teens and adults have a very, very high rate of unemployment. If your child really wants to go and work at, let's say, Subway, because they like, you know, their other teen friends or kids in the neighborhood or family members have worked at the fast food, but you're worried about them going there because you're not sure they're going to get the training. You can teach them all the different types of pickles and peppers and everything. Take pictures, shoot some videos, put them in there. It's all in a magazine. They can watch this magazine over and over. And you can put different articles in there about life skills to help them as well, such as brushing their teeth, washing their hair, making sure they go to bed on time, why sleep is so important, how to help them with de-stress when they're starting to get to that level where you feel they might have a meltdown. There's so many things you can put into this magazine therapy. And again, it's not just limited to writing. You can put videos. If one of the things that helps them is cartoons. When Peyton was young, he loved Ed, Edd, and Eddy. Okay, I wish I had been able to put in some of those into a magazine around some of the topics, because he would have laughed, calmed down, and then gone back to his schoolwork. And I really honestly believe that would have helped him a lot. He can journal. He journals. He can journal in there. He can write things up, put it into his magazine. It's also great for you as a parent to journal, because you can have your own magazine parallel with them or connected to them, where you can journal your daily activities or your weekly activities. You can we're going to talk about how you can use the compose tool in a minute, but you can compose and write this week's lessons in your magazine. Your child can fill them, and at the end, they can do the checklist and show that they've done it. And it's great. It's a great way to track your activities and what you've accomplished for the week, what skills they've learned, and whether or not they've filled their classes for the week. If not, then you can add them to the next week. It's also a great subject tracking. I like this because sometimes I forget, oh, did we cover enough English for the writing, or science? Which all sciences did we cover? This is great for him and for me, because I can track which subjects he's taken, and I can watch his curriculum to make sure that he's getting enough science, history, math, geography, geology, all these different types of subject tracking can go into it. And you can have, as I said earlier, one magazine that has all this in there, and you can have all these other magazines just about geography. And here's what's great about it. You can have a magazine. Say you have a child who's a freshman in high school. They're starting their freshman year. So this year, they're going to take this type of history. They're going to take American history. So you have this entire magazine about American history. Well, their sophomore year, they're taking world history. You add into that history magazine, if you choose, rather than a separate magazine, and you have the world history. Your child can look together in one magazine how American history also affects world history and vice versa. What was going on, say, in Europe when America was being founded, you can show the correlation between the two because the year before they have studied American history and now they've gotten to where the world history and they're showing how these are connecting. And at the same time, you can do a separate magazine that has just world history. So they can go back to that. And here's another great thing about doing it this way. You have, say you have older children like I do, okay? My older kids can be a part of Peyton's magazine and they can turn around and flip articles that they think Peyton would find interesting into his curriculum. So it's not only that I can use the curriculum that's out there, you can go to your kids' grandparents. They're studying American history. Who better to talk about what happened 80 years ago than their grandmother or grandfather who was living then? They can put some of their own ideas into there and some of their history and some of the things that were important to them or what they did. And it connects them with their grandparents because they see the correlation between the two. You can, and it shows their family history as well as American history all into one. It's an amazing tool. The sky's the limit of how you can use this and what you can actually do. And that's what I find so exciting about this. You can use collaboration between yourself as the instructor and your child. You can do a magazine together. Peyton has a chair that he got from Human Touch. It's a massage chair. They gave it to Peyton, and Peyton journals about this chair, and it helps Peyton with his meltdowns. When Peyton gets very stressed, he sits in his massage chair. Well, we started a magazine about stress relief, and Peyton talks about this chair. And what I love about this, sometimes I don't even realize that Peyton is getting stressed, and I'll see it in his magazine. I'll see where he has now put into there something about how it has helped him calm down. And it's a warning light to me because he doesn't always, he's trying to be a 17-year-old boy. He's trying to grow up, and he doesn't always come to me with some of his stresses. And I'll see this in a blog he puts into his magazine or an article he puts into there. And it amazes me sometimes some of the things he learns. He uses words sometimes, and I'm like, where did you learn that? Oh, I read an article that I was going to put in my Flipboard magazine, and I didn't know what it meant, and I looked up that word. And one of the tips that I will give you is if you have your child flipping into Flipboard, make sure that you go over with them too if they flip some articles in there. Ask them, why did you flip this in there? What was important to you about this? And one of the things that you can do with it is they can write on the top why they picked this article and why this article was important to them, what they saw was in this article and how it related to the subject. So you can see it on there as well as use it as a communication tool. And I love that. You can use it as a portfolio, and I think that's a fantastic. Events. Are there life-changing events in your life? Like my daughter, she just moved to Germany a couple months ago. I told her to start a Flipboard magazine about Germany and about what her, daily, when she's seeing her and my son-in-law, what they're doing with in Germany the historic places they're going around Europe. And it's also a great thing for Peyton to learn. It shows him. You can talk about graduation. You can put a Flipboard magazine if your child's going to be graduating. What better scrapbook than having this Flipboard magazine about their graduation, where everyone, you can go ahead and ask different family members and people that were important in your child's life to contribute to this magazine, talking about how they remember them growing up, and here they are graduating high school. What a great way for them to have a lifetime of experiences. Also, another thing is, if you are a special needs parent and you have something, you own a business that helps, say, with dyslexia or helps with some of these other issues that, you know, selling your curriculum or whatever, you can use this as a catalog, and it'll even include the price in it. And other parents that are frantically trying to figure out, oh my goodness, where can I find this? And instead of Google surfing the web, you can have it all in this magazine. They can see who you are by seeing your other magazines, and there's a certain amount of connection there. Oh wow, this person is really into this and that. Wow, if they, you know, I see by their magazines that they really do understand life skills and work skills and all this kind of stuff. I think I am going to go ahead and try their curriculum. I think it's a great way to find things. I brought up the Compose tool. I love the Compose tool. I think it's one of the best things about Flipboard. You can use this Compose tool to write, to engage your students with comments and discussions. Say your child flips an article in there. You don't know why. You can go ahead and write them a page and say, what did you find special about this? What was the most important part of this article? What did you take away from this article? Why do you think this should be in your magazine? How is this relatable to the subject? Then your child can write back, and it's all right there in one venue. It's in a magazine. So you can later go back to that and discuss it again with them. And they can look at why they found that article to be important as well. The other thing about it is you can add captions to pictures with this. So like one of my magazines is about autism travel, because it is difficult to travel a lot of times. Peyton's getting better. He used to get very stressed when he didn't know where he was going. And one of the things that I like about this is I can flip a picture of Peyton into a magazine and write where we were, what we were doing, why we were on this trip, what we learned from this trip. And other people, if they're going through my magazine, can have a relatability to it. How do you use Flipboard? First off, you need to install the app. And installing the app is pretty easy. You can either go to, as I said at the beginning, flipboard.com, or go onto your phone or your iPad. I have Flipboard on my phone and on my iPad. And I have to admit, I use it the most on my phone, but I'm a Flipboardaholic, so I carry my phone everywhere with me. So therefore, I tend to constantly look at Flipboard. I'm always scrolling through Flipboard for news, for what's going on in the world, for different things to do with schooling, coming up with ideas of different things to talk to Peyton about, as well as it helps me be able to come up with ideas for my blog. And this is another important thing. If you're blogging and you want to get out there about homeschooling, you can go ahead and look through these magazines and come up with some great ideas of what's going on, what other parents are having struggles with, and you can start your blog related to that. After you install it, then you want to do a bookmarklet for browsers. Okay, then start creating your magazines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a magazine. This is one of my magazines. This was my latest magazine right here. My latest blog, I'm sorry. And in this magazine, in my blog, this was about the season. This is in my Awesome as a Mom one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you exactly how to start one. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to, sorry. Why is this not? Oh, here we go. Okay, so these are, again, all my different magazines. This one right here, this Underdog Kids Foundation, I'm on the board of this foundation. It was started by a former Florida State football player who now plays in the Arena League. And I started a Flipboard magazine about his foundation. It's great. It gets a lot of the word out there. Here's some of my other topics. I'm really big into sports, and so I have a magazine about sports. Here, we're going to start a new magazine. So I'm going to press new. Okay, I'm going to title it. And the title of this magazine is going to be Don't Flip Out Flipboard. Now, when I do my description, it's important that I write what my magazine is about in case people, a lot of people are probably like, what does she mean? She's on Flipboard. Don't flip out. Don't flip out about what? So when I write my description, it's nice to write what I'm going to be putting in there. In this case, this magazine is about homeschooling special needs kids. Okay, that way, if there's another homeschooler with a special needs child and they're going through the Flipboard and they're looking at magazines, they're like, oh, here's one. Okay, let's see what this is. Okay, on the bottom, this magazine privacy. If I want this magazine to be private, and the only people I want are the people that I invite to join this magazine, I go ahead and push that. And then it will be private. It will be locked and other people can't see it unless they're invited to it. In this case, I'm going to leave it open. And if any of you that are listening to this would like to be a contributor to this magazine, please reach out to me and I'd love to add you in and have you go ahead and add your own stuff to it. Okay, so now we're going to create this magazine right here. Boom, there we go. At the beginning, you're going to have, this is what your cover is going to be. It's going to be kind of a blue sky, okay? So here, if I want to invite somebody, I just go ahead and do that, and then I can email them, and you'll get an email, and it'll say, Awesome as a Mom wants to invite you to join this magazine. And you accept, and then boom, you're added on to the magazine with me, okay? Now, it's gonna put this at the top of mine. Now, I wanna go ahead and I wanna try to find some articles to put in here, okay? So this is pretty easy. What I can do is I can go search topics, okay? Or I can look on some of the other magazines. Let's see here. Let's try a topic. Let's do Flipboard, okay? So I'm going to find Flipboard, and this is going to give me all these different topics that have to do with Flipboard. Like there's Flipboard and technology for the homeschooler, okay? There's Flipboard this. So it has the Flipboard pics. Let's look into this one. Flipboard technology for the homeschooler, okay? 14 educators you should follow on Flipboard. Well, I think maybe I should put that one in there because that might be a good one to see what some of the schools are doing with using Flipboard. And it might help me even with my homeschooling. Okay, so I'm going to press the plus button there, and it's going to show me all my different magazines. And I get to pick which ones I want to put it into. Sometimes I pick 3, 4, 5 different magazines that I want a particular article to go into. So let's put it in our Don't Flip Out Flipboard. Okay, now we're going to press add, and boom, it's in there. Now that magazine is now, that article is now in that magazine. So now when I look at it, there it is. Don't Flip Out Flipboard, and there's the article. And so I just tap on it, and up comes the entire article. See how easy that is? And this is great. And for example, let me show you something. On my Awesome as a Mom one, okay? So I just want to do one thing, and then I'm going to take your questions here. I can't get out of it. Okay. Okay, can you? Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm going to go to my Awesome as a Mom one just for a minute. I want to show something. In my Awesome as a Mom magazine, I have, as I said, my blog. I have articles that I found today that I was reading about. I have this about bullying. I have the article about Target and all these other things that I have found that are extremely important to me about autism. And what's cool about it is if someone is looking in my magazine, they'll also see my other magazines. So it gives someone a sense of who I am too. Like here, our trip to California and why I love Flipboard, okay? That was Peyton's blog. Peyton wrote that about when we went out to Flipboard. And I put it into my magazine. The more you think outside the box and the more that you show someone who you are, the better it is. Be creative, enjoy yourself. Love this. Just make it so that it's a reflection of you, of your kids, of your homeschooling, and your subject matters. And I take it as, I want to show the world too, that our kids are amazing. Our kids do learn. These homeschooling a special needs child is something so incredibly awesome. The sky is the limit for these kids, and using technology allows them to connect. Like, I know Peyton thinks he's pretty awesome because he gets to sit on social media, and his social media is Flipboard, and it's wonderful because he's learning, he's socializing, all at the same time. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you for all of your interest in this. And if you have any questions, I'd love to take them now.
All right, thank you so much, Lynn. All right, well, you guys are, we do have a couple questions to start off with, but while you guys are typing in your questions, I would love to see what the parents right now think that they would use Flipboard for. There must be something going through your mind like, oh, I could use it for this, or oh, I could use it for that. So if you guys can type that into the chat, I'd love to see how you plan to use Flipboard or what ideas you're thinking about to use Flipboard in your homeschool. And I just want to add to that, communication is really it's what we consider the gold standard of intelligence. I mean, we can do testing, we can do all of that kind of stuff, but the ability to communicate with other people is how the world sees whether or not someone is intelligent and how they communicate. And kids on the autism spectrum, that happens to be their biggest challenge, is communication. Communicating what they want to say, communicating how they're understanding a particular situation, communicating, like you said, whether or not they're about to have a meltdown or whether they're stressing out. Being able to communicate that is their challenge.
Yeah, Diane, not to interrupt you, but one of the things that's one of the things that I love about Flipboard is that it allows Peyton sometimes not only to write a blog and then he can share it on Flipboard. I can't tell you how many parents that don't have a special needs child who kind of, look at me with a leery eye about me homeschooling him, go, wow, I read Peyton's blog on Flipboard and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So maybe he might shut down in a social situation face to face, but yet when they go and they read his blog, they see he really is very intelligent and that he has a lot to say and a lot to communicate with the world. So that's why I wanted people to see this tool, because it's so huge, all of the things you can do. I kind of saw it as a concept of that, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use for organizing all of the things you're learning in your life and everything, but they're not visual tools. Most of them are not visual tools. So something like Evernote would be difficult for someone who's on the autism spectrum that needs to visualize what they're doing and the communication. Pinterest is not a safe place. So I see Flipboard as a safe place to have all that visual stuff.
Let me just say this. When we were at Flipboard, we met with Mike and Marcy McHugh. They're the founders of Flipboard, okay? They have a very strong heart towards the special needs community. And they looked me in the eye and said, we do everything we can to monitor, to make sure that these kids and these adults are not harassed. And it's not just special needs. They try to make sure no one is harassed. Of course, people are going to slip through. But I feel great with Peyton on Flipboard. And to see them face to face say it to me and mean it meant so much to me, because I do think it is, as you said, a lot of these places are not safe, and it's great for Peyton. I mean, I totally trust it, and they do. And if someone does say anything to you, you go ahead and report them, and they are Johnny on it.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's awesome. Okay, we do have some questions. Vision Q asks, is there a limit to the number of magazines you can make? Do they stay accessible indefinitely?
Yes, and no, there is no limit. As a matter of fact, I have a dear friend who I think might be watching this. She has 89 magazines and counting. Okay, so no, there is not a limit.
Okay, can you insert someone else's Flipboard magazine into your own?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can. As a matter of fact, they encourage it. And as a matter of fact, Flipboard itself every day puts out, and it'll come into your feed line, magazines we love.
Oh, good. Okay. Now, when you were searching, can you only search Flipboard and add Flipboard stuff, or can you add stuff from anywhere on the internet? Anywhere
on the internet. I go to, like, for example, I love Country Living magazine in Town and Country. And I go to their online magazines and I flip it right into my magazine.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. Is it easier to use on a tablet or a phone?
It depends on who you ask. I like it better on the phone. My husband likes it much better on the tablet.
Yeah, I guess it would be personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a question. Can you have it printed at some point, or just a portion of it, or like maybe you want to print one magazine, or maybe can you download that as a magazine?
I don't think so. I'm not sure though. I don't want to say no, 100% no, but I don't think so. I would err on the side of no there.
So like if someone wanted to submit a portfolio or something like that, they wouldn't be able to have that printed out.
I don't think so. But again, I can't say 100% no. I will ask Flipboard that, but I would tend to say no.
Okay. All right. That would be something maybe they could implement in the future. That might be on the wish list there.
Diane, okay. This is Mark. And yeah, at this time it's strictly digital, but then you could click on, say you do have a portfolio, you could click on the individual photos and print them that way. But that's the best they can do right now.
But what about like your child's writing? Like when they took the time, they wrote out the blog, things like that.
Same thing. You're basically going back to the origin, and you could print it from there. So I flip a Google Doc into a magazine. It's going to go back to the original Google Doc.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And you can print it that way. It's basically a curation tool.
Okay. Good. All right. Beth says, I could see using Flipboard for creating a magazine about those things my 8-year-old daughter expresses an interest in without allowing her access to the whole internet. Right now, I have websites bookmarked on the computer, but this would allow me to include additional things like pictures and things she created too. Oh, goodness.
Absolutely. That's what's so great about this, is that you can keep your child somewhat restricted, yet at the same time, they can put all of what's in, of interest to them in one place, and you don't have to worry about them, surfing the web for things.
Right, right. And Rachel's excited to try it out with her media-loving autistic teens, because we all know that kids love media.
Yes.
Let's see. Vision Q is going to create some life skills magazines for her sons. Mia says, it sounds like a great way to motivate my boys to do independent research and reinforce life skills.
Yes.
Right. And Kim says it's a great way to engage the student in a unit study. Oh, we love unit studies. If nothing else, the child can research online the things they find interesting about a topic. It'll be interesting to see where my high-functioning autistic child will go to. Absolutely.
One of the things that I think is really awesome about Flipboard is, again, you could put 10 different, high-functioning autistic teens in there, and they could curate together. They could all put their articles in there and learn from each other. And and somewhat it becomes a competitive thing. Say the topic is tigers, they like tigers, and they can each try to find, unique articles, and yet they can interact with each other. They can comment. They can go ahead and use the compose tool. So they're really learning. They're almost designing their curriculum together.
Right, right. It's true. And you can actually I can see this in a co-op setting too.
Absolutely. That's why when I came across Flipboard, Mark introduced me to Flipboard, I was almost like, I couldn't breathe. I was so excited. I'm like, the sky's the limit on this thing.
That's how I felt when I was trying to tell people about it, but I was like, I hope I don't overhype it, but I just so exciting about all the things you can do. Like Mia commented here, that she would use it for her teens who always want to learn more about science, like geology and weather, and her younger son who's interested in World War II and all of that. And also Mia says, I love the idea of using this to help myself in learning more about my daughter's speech disorder and sensory issues.
Absolutely. That's why, let me just tell you a real quick story. When we were out in California, one of the women that works for Flipboard, we had lunch with her and her husband the next day. And she told us that her son had been misdiagnosed, and they didn't find out he was autistic until he was 13 or 14 years old. And she was just beside herself because she was trying to figure out what she needed to do, and she felt like she had lost all that time. And she said, Marcy McHugh said to her, go look at Awesomeism Moms magazine. And that brought me to tears, because I realized that this magazine that I was putting together for Awesomeism Mom, with everything I could gather and everything I could find about autism to help me understand Peyton better, was a tool that was helping another mother help her get through all of a sudden realizing that her child had autism. And it touched me so much, because I know when Peyton was diagnosed 13 years ago, I just sat on the web frantic trying to find stuff, and then I'd be like, well, I don't know where I put that article. And that's what's awesome about Flipboard, is you can put this all into one place, go back, there it is, you can reread it, you can look at it, and it's all in one area.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. We have a question here about inserting Microsoft Word articles from your computer. Can you do that?
You would probably need to put it onto a site,
like Google Docs.
Dropbox or iCloud, somewhere like that, somewhere that it could reach it from the cloud.
Right. So basically, it's a cloud-based app that's pulling from the cloud and pulling in the images and the articles and things, but it's not actually storing them there. So that's kind of something. That's why we can't print it. Kim suggested she uses a snippet tool for Kindle books, since she can't print them. If she sees something she wants to save, she'll snip it And then maybe that could be used to print out the magazines because you can only print out pictures, right?
No, you can print out websites, but my point was that the stuff that you put into a Flipboard magazine, it's still on the cloud also.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do put in snippets and say you save that snippet to the cloud and flip it into a magazine, it's still going to take you back to that original snippet that is, in your iCloud or on your Dropbox, wherever you place. Same thing with a website. It'll take you back to the original website, which you can then print out.
Okay, but you can't actually upload your own pictures into Flipboard. You have to upload them somewhere into the cloud.
Right. Yeah. And we stick ours on iCloud.
Yeah, and then I put them in there.
500px or Flickr will also work. Instagram won't because they changed their API recently.
Okay.
Under the picture thing, there's a woman that's a photographer. Her name is Terry Porter, and she has 80 magazines, and she takes photography from all over, and her magazines are so phenomenal. And she has one about America, and it is a great magazine for kids to get excited about different parts of our country. And you can go like to her photography magazine, which is very calming, and use those pictures to use it into, say, history, and get your children to look at hers and flip her pictures into your magazine, and then have your children find the articles about that particular place that she's put into her American photography. And this is a great tool. If any of these, kids, and I know a lot of times autistic teens and adults really like photography, this is fantastic for them to show their photography skills.
Yeah. But once they take it down off the cloud, if someone takes a picture off the cloud, you won't have access to that picture anymore.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So can a magazine be created that contains only videos or only pictures?
Yes.
Okay. And so you can add a Google Doc from Google Drive to the magazine.
Correct.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I think we answered all the questions. Wow, this was a great session. I really appreciate everything that you shared today. I'm excited about it. I'm going to go out and hype it up to people because I really think this is a fantastic tool. Because I do work with a lot of parents who have children on the autism spectrum, and I hear and understand what their challenges are. So when I saw this tool, I thought this is really cool. This is really cool. Mia has a comment for you. She says, Lynn, what a blessing to be able to help others through the research you did for your son. Thank you so much for sharing these great ideas. And then Vision Q says, thank you also. And I thank you. I thank you for sharing today.
You're very welcome.
How people can get in touch with you, awesomeasaMom.com. When you guys leave this meeting today, you will be taken to a post-attendee page where you can print out a certificate that shows that you attended this training today. And also you will see a link there to, or Lynn's, a link to her website, awesomeasamom.com. And then also her tag name on Twitter, Flipboard is Awesome as a Mom on both of those. LinkedIn is Awesome as a Mom. And let's see, her email, Lynn with an E on the end at awesomeasamom.com. So reach out. This is a great tool. I'm excited that we shared it today. Thank you so much, Lynn and Mark, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diane.